All right. So first of all, my name is Will Moss. I am the CEO of HBCU CONNECT, and I am excited to present this evening Agilent, who has some excellent opportunities to share with you. We're going to meet some of the team members, and we're going to get started here with another exciting event. So just a little bit of housekeeping as we get started. Please make sure to keep yourself on mute to minimize any distractions. Sorry. And then also you do not have to turn on your video until towards the end of the event, where we'll have the opportunity to share our video feed and get sort of a group shot. We will be recording this event, like I said, so that you can go over the event and all of the opportunities in case you have to step away and go to the bathroom or go, for a coffee break or what have you. So welcome to our event. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so first, what I like to do at our events is go over the agenda so that you will know what to expect for the event, what's going to happen. So the first thing is I'm going to give a quick, brief welcome, introducing myself, HBCU CONNECT, and Agilent, the opportunity for you. Then I will introduce our keynote speaker, who will speak for 15 or so minutes, give you some background, not only on herself and who she is, but also on Agilent and some of the different opportunities within the business. Then after our keynote presentation, I will introduce you to the team. So let's meet the team. We have several team members from Agilent that are taking the time out to share a little bit about their background, their path to Agilent, what they currently do at Agilent, and some of the opportunities on the teams that they work on, and sort of a day in the life so that you have an idea of a little bit more of some of the people and the culture there within Agilent, and then also the opportunities. So once we give you a little bit of context by introducing each of the team members that will be on the panel discussion, we will go ahead and get started with a panel discussion where I have prepared a few questions to ask of each of our panelists to share a little bit of insight, not only on the company and the opportunities, but also on the culture there at Agilent. So I have a few questions that I'll ask that I have lined up for our panelists, but then I would also invite you as our candidates to ask questions in the chat, and we'll have sort of a live Q&A, and I'll ask your questions from the chat to our panelists so that they can share a little bit of insight and we can get some of your questions answered. Also, something that's a little bit unique about our Agilent events is the opportunity for you to network sort of one-on-one with some of the recruiters that are also on the call. So once we get to that section of the event, you can either reference the email that I sent you that will instruct you on which recruiter you should network with. In case you have any questions, if you'd like to introduce yourself and your background and see how your background aligns with the opportunities, there is a recruiter on the call that will be here to answer your questions. So I sent an email just before the event that you can reference. So just make sure to check your inbox or your spam folder. But then also I have a slide that will show you the organization of who you can reach out to in case you have questions, to introduce yourself and network with one-on-one with the recruiters. So that'll be going on in parallel with our panel discussion. All right, and then once we get through our panel discussion, our live Q&A, and you've had a chance to have some one-on-one chats and conversations with the recruiters, then we will go into next steps. So if you're looking and you're excited about opportunities with Agilent, you can know what your next steps are and then take action to potentially land an interview and be hired at Agilent. All right, so that's our event agenda. And like I said, let me go ahead and introduce myself and a little bit about HBCU CONNECT. So most of you are probably already familiar with HBCU CONNECT and what we do, but we're the largest organization dedicated to students and graduates from historically Black colleges and universities. We've been around since 1999, and our mission is to help students and graduates of HBCUs and people of color to land opportunities, whether that's internship opportunities or even scholarship opportunities or jobs after graduation, or maybe you've been out for a while and you're looking for your next career move. We are here to help connect you to those opportunities. So that sort of brings us to our relationship with Agilent. A lot of the companies that we work with have their jobs posted on our website. They have access to our resume database. So when you submit a resume to us, companies like Agilent can reach out to you. But then also, some companies want to be a little bit more hands-on to introduce themselves as a company and help have facilitate a conversation where you can get to know them better. And that leads us up to the event that we are hosting tonight. We also had another event previously with Agilent that focused more on folks that had a chemistry or chemical engineering background. It was a great event. The candidates really took advantage of the ability to network one-on-one with recruiters to learn more about Agilent and then to follow up for career opportunities afterwards. So we highly recommend that you engage, make sure to utilize the chat. So what I like to do, so if you just want to get warmed up in the chat, utilizing Zoom, is if you want to introduce yourself in the chat, maybe drop what HBCU you may have attended, maybe drop your LinkedIn profile just to network and introduce yourself with who you are and maybe a little bit of your background in the chat, because we used to do these events physically and, in locations all over the country. But thanks to a lot of our employers, sticking with us during the pandemic, we've decided to go from hosting these events physically to hosting them online. So we still want to have that engagement and interactivity. And the opportunity for you here is that this is not just a branding event where you go, it's just like, you might go to some career fairs, you go to a career fair, you learn about a company, but then there's no opportunity for you to really follow up or engage. This is an event where the hope is that some of you will land interviews and some of you will be hired. As many of our attendees of events like this have been hired after the event. So please make the most of it. Please leverage that chat to network, to introduce yourself, and to reach out to the recruiters one-on-one once we get to that point in the event. All right, so without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce our keynote speaker, who is Dr. Darlene Solomon, Chief Technology Officer and Senior Vice President at Agilent. So Darlene, if you're ready.
I am ready, and thank you, Will, and hi, everyone. I'm so glad that so many of you are up for taking the time this evening for most, I guess, late afternoon for some, to get a chance to get to know Agilent a bit better. So you can see my background here. I started as a research scientist. That was actually in Hewlett-Packard Laboratories. HP was the parent company of Agilent. We spun out in 1999. At the time, it was actually the largest IPO in the history of Silicon Valley. And I joined right out of grad school, campus hire with my PhD in chemistry, bioinorganic chemistry, I think that's what I put here. And I can assure you, I didn't know much about business. I knew almost nothing about industry. And I certainly never imagined being CTO of Agilent, which is a role that I've had for a little over 15 years now. So you can see that my whole career has been with HP Agilent, and starting as a scientist with various expanding levels of responsibility and opportunity till eventually where I have the role today that I love so much I do. So going to, Will, you'll help me get through the slide deck. I think we'll go ahead and move to the first real slide. So Agilent is a global collaborative team of about 16,000 employees, serving vital industries in 6 key market areas. So pharma and biopharma, which is our largest market, our largest set of customers, customer base. The next few are what we call the applied chemical markets: food safety, chemical and energy industry, environmental, which includes things like air quality or water safety, forensics. Those are the applied chemical markets. Then we have clinical and diagnostics, and academic and government research. Our goal is to deliver trusted answers to customers' critical questions. We are committed to helping our customers to accelerate the advancement of science and technology. And we collaborate to deliver what we call complete integrated solutions. So when we say integrated solutions, we're talking about complete workflows. So kind of from the sample and sample preparation, which might include some consumables or bioreagents or some design software, through to instrumentation with hardware, software, and firmware, all the way through to the data tools that end up giving insight and actionable chemical and biological information from our products, and again, for our customers across these areas. Championing customer success and that of our Agilent team is really what we're about, and trying to continue to help make the day-to-day measurements and the discoveries that will help make our world a better, safer place to live. When we think about core values and Agilent, innovation and contribution are right up there together with trust, respect, teamwork, and uncompromising integrity. And so we focus and partner with our customers to really try to ensure that we're addressing problems that matter. So collaborating with our customers to better understand their needs and to understand those needs in the context of what's happening in our dynamic world. So the latest trends in science, trends in technology, regulatory, society. So next slide, Will. So here we look a little more at the innovation piece, and Agilent invests a greater percentage of revenue back into R&D every year compared to the average of our peers and competitors. The engine of our R&D team is the organic R&D. The engine is our product development divisions. You'll hear about those teams a little bit more in a couple of slides, but they are spread across all of Agilent's businesses, the R&D teams and the divisions. And so we have analytical instrumentation and software, as you see, genomics and diagnostics, which is heavily aimed towards early cancer detection and better cancer therapy and treatments. And then we have our analytical services and support, which are increasingly going through digital transformation and consumables. So that covers our kind of next generation products, usually with a couple of year kinds of roadmaps. But in addition, as part of that bigger R&D investment, Agilent continues to invest in Agilent Research Labs. So the Agilent Research Labs is our centralized interdisciplinary R&D team that focuses on high impact, generally higher risk and longer term technology contributions. The labs aims for the more breakthrough contributions, again, higher risk, but if we can do it, those 10-fold, 100-fold, or even sometimes 1,000-fold improvements in performance or ease of use. I will also mention that we have quite a few openings throughout our product divisions, as well as in Agilent Labs, and you'll get a chance to hear and connect with those as we go on in the hour. But the internal R&D isn't enough. We all know that innovation is happening faster than ever, everywhere. And so external focus is also a priority for us. And so we have extensive programs for collaborating with universities, government research institutes, other industries, and also with early stage companies, the more entrepreneurial part of the ecosystem, which has become, again, a real important part of the technology ecosystem. Okay, next slide, Will. So returning to the product development engine, this slide provides a sense of where our major centers are for R&D and manufacturing. And each one, so I know the map's not great, but kind of starting from the right, you can see that they cover Australia and Asia, Europe, and North America. So each one of these R&D centers is actually a center of technology excellence. And if we flip to the next slide, you can see how these map out. And so areas of deep technical capability that are very much providing the products and solutions globally for that particular area of technology and product depth. And so you can, so for example, if I start on the far right, which at least is easy to see, that's China, that's gas chromatography and flow cytometry. We have spectroscopy down in Melbourne, Australia, several areas like pathology and Raman spectroscopy in Europe, and a number of locations throughout the US. So we have cell analysis, for example, gas chromatography and columns and sample prep more on the East Coast, a number of sites on the West Coast. Our company headquarters is in Santa Clara, California, and that's where I am, and I'm not in in the second bedroom of our house. And you can see, so that's kind of in the middle here, and that's where our genomics R&D, mass spectrometry, software and informatics, as well as most of Agilent labs is, for example, co-located. Okay, so moving to the next slide. You know, innovation is increasingly at the interface of disciplines. And I think this is true across all of our markets, applied chemical, life science, as well as diagnostics and research. And it takes many areas of expertise to come together to deliver those complete workflow solutions that I mentioned, to be able to go from sample prep all the way through to actionable insights and results. And so to give you an example, so Will, if you can help me here with some animation, there's three major kind of backbones of technology capability and direction that are really very much a foundation at Agilent. So engineering, as you see here, mechanical, electrical, chemical, biological, continuing on biology, molecular, cellular, computational, and microbiology, for example, and software, data science, machine learning, modeling and simulation, visualization, and analysis. Key areas that really are, I'm going to say, pervasive in so much of what we do. But to those, we add the additional capabilities in many of the other key physical sciences, right? So physics, optics, mathematics, chemistry, computer science. And then finally, what I like to refer to as the interdisciplinary disciplines: material science, separation science, measurement science, microfluidics and digital fluid microfluidics, nanofluidics, and that last one, which is really, I think, very much an interdisciplinary science business, is important too. You know, technical understanding is valuable throughout Agilent, not just in R&D, but throughout. So in manufacturing, for example, marketing, IT, business development, legal, field, customer support. It's even great when our finance people have some technical depth. And I think that one of the things that I really learned through my career is that being part of a large global company provides you the opportunity to try new things and to really see what you most enjoy. And often those are things that you don't have the opportunity to get exposed to until you really do move into industry beyond the university. Okay, so continuing here then, thank you. You are spot on right with me here, Will. So I don't think there's ever been a more exciting time to be in technology. And so this diagram, I know, is a little bit complicated, but if you kind of start by looking to the lower left, the opportunity to make our world safer and more sustainable, the safety of food, safety of water, renewable energy, and our environment as climate change takes hold. To the right, also in the lower portion, we need to make all of our platforms and our solutions, we need to continue to make those robust and as easy to use as possible as we enable our customers to achieve their actionable results and insights. Moving up a bit, it's through data science and AI that we are transforming the analytical lab to what we call the digital lab of the future. Smarter instruments, smarter workflows, smarter laboratories, and networked smarter global laboratories. So important to collaboration. At the top, and kind of upper half here, we have precision medicine, enabling us to understand and treat disease at the molecular level. We're going beyond genomics and proteomics to be able to measure and understand molecular classes like metabolomics and lipidomics, all of these very computationally intensive in terms of IT tools, for example, in informatics. And we are not only reading and writing DNA, but we're now editing DNA through CRISPR cell engineering and understanding those edits through cell analysis, creating new directions for biopharma and cell and gene therapy, areas that really have the promise to cure disease as has never before been possible. Moving to the next slide. Yeah, great. So beyond the technology, I also wanted to highlight that Agilent believes strongly in giving back to the community. This commitment to giving back has resulted in a very strong partnership between Agilent, the Agilent Foundation, and our employees to help make our communities a better place. So we offer, for example, as shown on the left-hand side there, and we offer employees 6 paid time off days per year to volunteer to a qualifying charitable organization of your choice. You can see that we also have a number of programs for mentoring, for helping with often environmental cleanup or other community service. And we have a number of programs for helping to support STEM education, including our Agilent after-school programs. Agilent also matches charitable giving by donations. So if you give $1, Agilent matches that. And you can see here, it's a little out of date on this slide, but in 2019, $7.5 million was donated by employees to their communities and charities of choice through this matching program. Okay. And turning to, I think, my last slide. Thank you, Will. You know, this one, there's a lot on here, but in the big picture of things, you know, winning awards is not our focus at Agilent, but it does show that when you focus on doing the right things consistently, that gets noticed. And it's not about saying that you're good. I think it's really about being recognized by others that you're making a difference. So this slide captures a few examples of how we're being recognized by external sources. So in addition to innovation and best product awards, we receive awards for being a great place to work. Those are at different geographic sites for Agilent throughout the world. Just this past week, we were named a great place to work in Korea, if any of you are interested. We've been recognized for our commitments to sustainability, a high priority in Agilent. This year, we were rated by Barron's, who rates the US companies according to their sustainability contribution. This year, we were number 2 of the most sustainable companies in the US, according to Barron's. Last year, we were number 1, and we've been number 1 in the life sciences industry category in each of the 4 years that Barron's has been publishing this list. We're recognized for our contributions to diversity. The photo here is of our terrific, wonderful Patrice Jimerson, who is our global leader of diversity and inclusion. We're one of America's most responsible companies, one of the best US companies for diversity, and we have very high employee engagement scores and a 4-star rating on Glassdoor. So I think in closing, you know, you may already have a sense of why I've chosen to be part of Agilent for my entire career. You know, one of the truly rewarding things I think about working here is what our company does, what we're about, which is fundamentally to help improve quality of life for everyone. There were always new opportunities, new challenges, and more to learn, doing things that I had never done before, and in many cases hadn't ever been done before in the world, which are ones that I especially find exciting. But most importantly, we have really great people. Our value and culture attract wonderful people, while I think ones who really genuinely care about and respect each other and are committed to making a positive difference for Agilent and for the world. So I'm gonna wrap it here and let you hear from a few of my other colleagues and friends at Agilent, but I just want to thank everybody for joining us today, and I hope that you will consider joining us, and I'll be available also on chat if there's questions.
So Darlene, is it okay if I ask a couple of quick follow-up questions?
Sure.
So can you give us 2 things I'm thinking, just for context, a little bit about your role and your responsibilities at the company, and then I noticed you got a long career with Agilent, leading from HP before. What was it like, your career path as you progressed and were promoted up into the role that you are in now? I think that would be very inspiring to some of our candidates.
Sure. Yeah. So in terms of my role, so I report to the CEO. One of the kind of amazing things is actually, because I've been CTO as long as I have, which I mean, I think isn't good, but I've actually served under all 3 of Agilent CEOs. They've all been terrific leaders, but there's no question. So our founding CEO, and then Bill Sullivan for many years, and now Mike McMullen, and they've all been great, with lots to learn from each. But there's no one better than Mike, who very clearly states that the best is yet to come for Agilent, and we're doing really well. So I'm part of the CEO staff. I work with the businesses around their R&D and technology strategies. But my own organization is more focused on kind of the longer range direction for the company and making the investments that will create our options for the future. So you saw the Agilent Research Labs piece on that, with the R&D investment slide. So the labs is one of the organizations that is actually part of my, CTO organization per se. And so I have a great team of scientists and leadership in the labs. I also oversee our external research with universities. It's a global program, and I really enjoy being well connected to academia and at the leading edge of where things are going on campus. And then I initiated and continue to co-lead together with our corporate development lead, Allison Balmer, that early stage partnership program, and working very closely with our startup companies and bringing forward some of those technology directions. So that's kind of my day-to-day role. The career path, at one level, I've kind of, I started as a scientist, and there were a number of promotions and opportunities to have more and more responsibility. When I joined Agilent, I'm more of a biochemist type by background, but it wasn't at all clear where the company would go and where the opportunities would be. But as we moved into life science, I didn't talk too much about what Agilent was like in 1999, but I worked very closely on the strategic transformation of the company from a semiconductor and electronics company to a life science healthcare leader that we are today. And I, within that, I'll say that I had promotions that happened too soon, where I didn't think I was really ready. I also have 2 adult kids. And I also had some positions that I greatly enjoyed, but you might think I was in there for quite some time, maybe 10 years without a change, but there was always new opportunity and new learning. So those are just a few initial thoughts.
Excellent. I think that's, I think that's awesome. Can you remind people about how many employees, how big is Agilent?
Yeah, so Agilent total is about 16,000 people worldwide, but we're organized into much smaller groups. So you feel you're much more part of a team, and you really know each other well. But there's amazing resources being part of a global company. But 16,000 total. Excellent.
So to our candidates, I just want you all to realize what kind of company you're in. So Agilent, over 16,000 employees. The chief technical officer at Agilent has taken her time out to share a little bit about her background, her experiences, and a little bit more about the company, specifically with this intimate group of diverse candidates. So I think that speaks highly of Agilent's commitment to diversity and commitment to you all as candidates that are on this call. So if you have questions specifically for Darlene, I would encourage you to ask those questions in the chat. And Darlene, if you have a couple minutes to entertain any questions in the chat from our candidates, I think it will be greatly appreciated.
Will do, for sure. And again, thank you again so much, Will. I'm really, really delighted to be able to join today.
Excellent. Thanks, Darlene, for being our keynote. And with that, let me go ahead and start the next portion of our event, which will be the introduction of our panelists. And so our first panelist is Samir. And Samir, help me out with your last name, please.
Hey, Will, thanks. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
I've been having audio issues today. Great. Okay. First, thanks for inviting me here to you and Leanne and others. And the way you say my name is Samir Nene.
Samir Nene.
Last name is Nene.
Nene, perfect.
Yeah, so that's you got it. You got it. Perfect.
And I wanted to make sure.
No, you got it right.
Perfect. I want to make sure I introduce you by your title as well. Samir is the Associate Vice President of R&D, Software and Informatics within Agilent. So Samir, if you're ready to talk a little bit about yourself, your background, maybe your path to Agilent and what you currently are responsible for and any opportunities, we would really appreciate that.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Will. So I've been part of Agilent since HP days, 1999, even before the split that Darlene just spoke about, right? So I joined as a software engineer way back when in 99 here in Palo Alto. We used to have an office in Palo Alto, California, and spent my exclusive career exclusively as part of the software research and development organization. Before joining Agilent, I worked for a few companies both in the US as well as in India. And you can see some of the roles I have played growing through the research and development hierarchy here. And I right now lead the global research and development software organization as part of the software and informatics division. And this is a central software organization for Agilent, where we support more than half of the revenue that comes to Agilent, having one open lab software across the various instrument divisions or business units we've had. By education, I have a computer engineering degree from India, as well as a master's degree from here in Santa Clara University. And my current roles and responsibility is to drive the product as well as the technology roadmap for software within our software and informatics division as it plays out for our instrument businesses and ourselves.
Excellent. Were you a college hire into the company, or did you get your foot in the door in the company another way?
So I was not a college hire. I worked for a few companies in India and US before I joined HP. My foot in the door was in the way of I used to work for another company which used to contract with HP back then, and I had the opportunity to be at a HP site in Palo Alto working with the employees back there, and I said, looks like a company that I can work for, and let me try out, and the rest is history. I mean, I'm going 22 years, completing 23 now. So, and it's been a great ride playing various roles. I mean, you can imagine for the last 20 plus years, software has evolved, technology has evolved. I mean, I've gone from Windows 3.1 to now Windows 10, the latest software operating system, as well as software tools and technologies, and been part of quite a few grounds up software products and developments and initiatives working with customers.
And can you give us a little context on the type of people that work in your organization that you look to hire? What type of skill sets and roles?
I mean, we look for two things, right? One is what I would call the soft skills, and as Darlene highlighted some of the Agilent values. Of course, we look for somebody. Agilent is big on collaboration, so I mean, each of us bring valuable contributions. But when we work collaboratively, the effect is multiplicative, right? So I think somebody who wants to work in a collaborative environment, somebody who's curious and want to learn. Uh, in terms of skills, of course, if you are getting hired into a team, that's a specific team may have a need for certain specific tool set or skill set, but that's not necessarily always a requirement, because the tools change every 2 3 years 4 years. So I think learnability, adaptability are some of the things that I would look for in a candidate, more than just specific or two skills.
Excellent. And so one of my favorite questions to ask, each of our panelists is, what is it that has kept you at the company and that you like most about working for Agilent?
I would say people as the number one reason. What I have seen is the people. I worked at other companies too, great companies by the way, but the people that you work with at Agilent is different. You will encounter and work with a lot of really smart people, and that's how I believe I got on a little smarter. Yeah, and a great place to work in terms of work-life balance, and allowing us to innovate. And the way we work at Agilent is each of us has the ownership to manage his or her career. And I know my managers have supported my aspirations throughout my career here in giving me the support opportunities to sort of try out new things. And I think that's what keeps you going, that you, as Darlene said, tried new things, sometimes completely new things that never done before, and that keeps you going.
Excellent. So I've got a question from one of our candidates. I know you have to jump off early before our panel discussion. So I
I have
invited,
some time, yeah, 4 o'clock, yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So I invited our candidates to ask a couple of questions directly for you. And I see a good one here, and that is, over the years, what are some of the products that you have worked on and had your hands on?
So over the years, I worked on Agilent manufactures instruments, right? So LCs, GCs, mass specs, and I worked on data systems to actually uh, uh, software data systems that connect to these instruments, collect and analyze data. So some of the products that you will see on our website under software products, Mass Hunter, Open Lab, I've had direct contributions in impact right since the product was conceived. So those are two big ones. Data systems that we have, that have played significant role. In addition to this, you will see Mass Hunter Walkup, Stream Select, and a few others over there.
Excellent.
I was just thinking the other day, what products have I not played, not have not touched, and there were a few, but given the tenure, I've had the opportunity to uh, work with quite a large number of them.
Excellent. Excellent. So one of the questions I received as well is, for the R&D roles, on your team, or the product roles, is a PhD required, or what kind of skills and education are required for some of the roles?
Not necessarily. I mean, as you can see here, I do not myself have a PhD, and when I joined Agilent or HP, I had a bachelor's degree, and I did my master's while working here, right? So PhD is not definitely a requirement. Although some roles in certain parts of the organization where they may be looking for a specific need, uh, uh, there may be such one, but not necessary.
Excellent. So Samir, I want to thank you for volunteering some of your time to answer some of the questions, and for the candidates to get to know you. I know you have to jump off a little bit early, so I'll ask that if the candidates have any questions specific to you or your organization, that they drop those questions in the chat. And if you have a few more minutes to answer any questions from our candidates, that would be great.
Absolutely. And thanks, Will, for the opportunity. I'll stay for another 10 minutes on the call to take any other questions you have.
Perfect. So to our candidates, if you have
Okay.
questions for
Thank you.
Samir, Samir is Associate Vice President of R&D and Software and Informatics. So if you have questions, feel free to direct those questions to Samir in the chat. Okay, so with that, let me go ahead and introduce our next panelist, and I'm going to remove the spotlight on Samir. All right, our next panelist is Doug Ferrante, who is a SID R&D Director there at Agilent. So Doug, if you're ready.
Yes, I am. I'm hoping you hear me.
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Okay. Well, I have been here at Agilent for about 15 years. This is not where I started. I actually, the beginning of my path in this career, I had my bachelor's of computer science out of Santa Clara University. I did some on-campus interviewing, and then quite literally somebody at Tandem Computers in the HR department made a mistake. And I didn't know it at the time, but they made me an offer. I took it, and but they weren't supposed to. But there I was. So I am an example, I think, of somebody who just simply made good of an opportunity, because although my manager for the first year of my career really didn't want me around, I made myself invaluable enough that he couldn't just get rid of me either. So, and I just thought people treated people really tough in the working world. I didn't know any different. So that was kind of a crazy start, but I spent 10 years at Tandem. I have done, then I took a couple of rounds at doing the stereotypical Silicon Valley startup tried a couple of different things there until I found myself in one of those little companies that got bought by Agilent somewhere. I think it was 2005. And I've been at Agilent ever since. So and on all of these places, I've been doing software development, and then worked my way into managing different teams of different sizes. So that now I'm managing a couple of different teams. One is in software development, another is in doing the DevOps for all of this division in Agilent. And one of the things I thought was interesting as Darlene was talking is we have a company of 16,000 people. And yet I really feel like I work with a small enough group of people. I don't feel like I'm in a 16,000 person behemoth company. I did once in the past when I was at Compact Computers, but here I actually do feel like this is a place where you as an individual can make your contribution that is to a degree that you can feel it, you can see it, much like you can in a really small startup, which it surprises me every time I hear that we're 16,000 people large. So that's who I am.
I've got a couple of follow-up questions.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yep.
So what is SID?
Software Informatics Division. So
Okay.
we, Agilent, the bread and butter is we have these instruments that measure really tiny things. And they're in all of those different areas that Darlene talked about. But to somebody like me, where I don't have a science background, I did software. To me, it was just a big instrument that measured something really small. The software that this division does, the informatics division, is that we're at the end of that cycle of the workflow that Darlene talked about, where we take the data off those instruments and do the analysis of it and the data management of it. So this division, our role is to take all this data from these instruments and make it valuable, make it something so that it's not just little ones and zeros off a machine. Somebody can get a report out of you put your substance in your gas chromatic. I can't even say it right, but now you know that it's sugar because you've done the analysis.
Okay. And then what types of people work on your team? Like what types of, is it mostly software engineers? Are there any data scientists or program managers? What kind of folks do you hire on your team?
Yes. So, so I have a couple of teams now. There's, like I said, I've got a software development as well as the DevOps. In the software development, there's the people that are more like the program managers that keep the whole machinery running. And then there are the people that are deep into the software development. And I don't think there's anything crazy unique about, when you say, is it what kind of software developer? You can see some of the opportunity listings that I think you guys will get the links to somewhere in here. Yep. It's software that's running on Windows, some stuff on Linux. There are people that just need to be able to get in there and do enterprise-wide software. It's not just running on your laptop. It's stuff that's got to run across a much larger organization. So there's all kinds of networking, connectivity type things to be aware of, and all of the interconnectivity, and it's a different layer of complexity. Sure. I also have a DevOps team, and this is closer to an IT set of skills, but the doing automation for build systems and testing and so on. It's not your old IT, what it was when I first started, where these were the geeks over in the corner that were plugging the wires into the walls and so on. We have server farms that run thousands of virtual instruments, and we have automation going up and down these all over the place, so that when one of our software developers does submit some change of code in there, and they could be anywhere in the world. Somebody in Germany does something, and then the test is run automatically. And if something went wrong, the message goes to somebody in Mulgrave. You pick the site that Darlene was showing. There's something going on everywhere.
Right.
And there's an awful lot of automation that goes on in there that my DevOps team is keeping running. It's kind of fun and nerve-wracking.
So I've got a couple of things that have piqued my curiosity. I actually have a computer science background myself, and I'm always curious when I meet other software engineers and that kind of thing. What technologies have you had to use in your career? What programming languages and technologies? And then what's currently, for the products that you're developing, what languages and technologies are you using to develop those products?
Well, when I started, C++ was the thing, which I don't know, maybe it's because that's where I started, but it's still one of my favorite things to use.
Okay.
And as I progressed, there was all kinds of scripting that I've done, little bits of everything, the simple Visual Basics to Pythons and Groovies and so on. But the core of what I have done is in the programming languages, starting with C++, did a bunch of C#, Java, did a little bit of Go. Boy, that was a while ago. But and today our teams are primarily in doing the C# stuff for the applications we do. There is a whole bunch of web development we're doing with things like Angular and web service technologies, but
a lot of C#.
yeah, one of the things, there was a question that you asked Samir, I think, that was, what keeps you there at Agilent? And one of the thoughts I had when he was answering that is that, wow, I know one of the things that keeps me here is that the technical challenges are always here, because there's always some new thing.
Challenge, yep.
And it's never gone dry to where I look around and go, well, I've already done all that.
Excellent. So let me ask my favorite question, and that is, what is it that is that what you would say is what you like most about working for the company, or would there be something else that you say is what you like most about working at Agilent?
There's two things for me. That probably the most important is the technical challenges that are still there for me. It keeps me, if I don't feel like I'm in over my head, I'm probably going to start getting bored.
Okay.
So this is good. And like I said before too, I've been in the big companies, I've been in the startups, and did my time, where you spend 20 hours working each day and burn yourself to a crisp. What I like about Agilent is that if I really wanted to, I could work that way, but it doesn't force me to. And I have learned to have a bit more of a balance, so that I remember to be a human being at the same time.
Awesome.
Not just in the amount of time I'm spending, but things like, Darlene was pointing out some of the other things that you're encouraged to do, everything from volunteering and opportunities to participate in the world, really.
I think that's awesome. It speaks to the culture of the company. So Doug, let me thank you for being one of our panelists and for that introduction, so that folks know who Doug is. So if you've got questions specifically for Doug, feel free to drop those questions in the chat. And then with that, let me go ahead and introduce our next panelist. So our next panelist, let me go ahead and remove spotlight. Our next panelist is Robert Gamble, who is the IT director at Agilent. So Robert, if you're ready.
Hi, yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Well, good afternoon or evening or wherever folks are located. Nice to be here. So I guess, a quick overview of my career in Hewlett-Packard and Agilent. And before I do that, I just want to comment to Darlene. I don't think there's a person in Agilent who has worked directly for 3 CEOs. I really don't think there is, Darlene. So, but I date back. I was an intern back in 1984. I was a college student. I was studying computer science at Villanova University. And I graduated in 1985 and was hired into Agilent. I did interview with Apple and Xerox at the time, and I chose to work for Hewlett-Packard as my career. And primarily it was driven by my father-in-law. I have to be honest about this. He worked for IBM for some 40 years, and I thought, wow, that's really neat, where you can find a company that you want to work for and hang your hat in that company for 40 years. So I kind of had that view when I was looking for where I wanted to spend my career, and Hewlett-Packard became that company. Programming languages, Fortran, COBOL, Pascal. I don't think anybody here has heard of them, but that's what they were back then. So I joined HP in '85. I was a systems engineer in the field. I worked in Manhattan for 5 years and did a lot of operating system upgrades and system sizing with Hewlett-Packard business computer systems. Got married in '87. I moved to Delaware from the Manhattan area, actually northern New Jersey, if you can sense my accent. Moved to Delaware in 1991. Worked on various projects to consolidate in our data center in Delaware about 15 or 20 Hewlett-Packard business systems. So I was parlaying my experience in the field and bringing it internally into a division in Hewlett-Packard at the time. So I worked with a lot of operations people, data center people, that type of stuff. Then in around 1994, SAP, you may have heard of the ERP application called SAP. You might see it advertised, but SAP emerged. And a lot of the Fortune 500 companies were interested in re-engineering their business processes and using SAP. So I was dabbling with a master's of computer science, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I basically hung my hat on the SAP wagon back then. Went to various training courses, got involved in the corporate program that we had going and started up at that time. And we basically embarked on implementing SAP back around the mid-90s. And I'll say even to this day, we have programs and projects that are being worked on that are all SAP based. But I got involved in that. I was doing programming in a language called ABAP. That was the primary language that SAP was using. Very simple language. Did all of, I shouldn't say all, I did a lot of the programs that actually pulled data out of SAP and transmitted it to our corporate general ledger, our cost accounting systems, accounts payable, receivable, and so on. So got a lot of programming experience doing that type of work. In 1998, I had an opportunity to work in Germany. So Hewlett-Packard at the time shipped me over to Germany. I lived there for a year working on rolling out SAP in Europe. And my second child was born in Germany. And a lot of times I get asked, is your second child a German citizen or not? And the answer is no. You have to be born of a German citizen to acquire a German citizen there. Then around the 2000s, I got involved in web development. And I ran a project that basically implemented one of the first online stores in Agilent back then. And I deliberately chose to go live on January 1st, the year 2000. I didn't believe all of the hype around the world was going to end with software technology and all that kind of stuff. So we tested and we demonstrated that we could do that. So that was the basis for our online store, and it's basically has grown ever since then, year over year. In the 2000s, I got involved in running programs that were geared towards merger and acquisitions. So Agilent went through a process where we identified companies, We acquired the companies, and we worked on integrating the companies into Agilent. So a lot of time was spent doing that type of work, doing more program management type activities. And then in around 2014, I became a manager in the IT organization. Basically led a team of people to deliver projects within the company that touched sales, marketing, service, finance, manufacturing. So basically any of the core systems that the company runs its business on, we were involved in running projects, delivering solutions for a business in those areas. And today, I'm an IT director. We have in our organization about, in my team, I should say, about 21 employees located in India, Denmark, and in the US, in California, and here in Delaware. The organization basically delivers projects in the sales, marketing, service, and finance areas. We're probably working on some of the largest initiatives in the company. And I made a note to myself about Doug. I think, Doug, you might be surprised that Pat now on the call here is running a program to actually develop a license activation model, which I think Software Informatics had acquired and is planning to roll that out. So we touch bases that way. We're involved in other programs. Linda Crisculo, who's on the call, is running one of our largest programs to implement a solution that enables end customers to contact essentially technical support people worldwide. So we're revamping how we engage with our customers with that work. And we're doing other work that is involved with rolling out a quoting solution worldwide for the company. So we're touching many, many different areas that enable business to run. And our business that we transact on is about over $6 billion a year. So all of the systems that we do work in basically supports transacting over $6 billion of business for Agilent. Let me pause there and see. That's all about me. I can go into IT in a little bit more detail, but let me take a pause.
Robert, appreciate the background, and it sounds like sort of the picture I'm getting in the IT organization is that, and within Agilent, is that if you come in with a computer science background, you can do a wide variety of different types of projects. So that leads to a question, and that is, what types of skills or talent do you look for in people that join your team?
The number one skill is leadership. A lot of the work that we do requires leading either consultants that we bring in to help deliver the work that we have, leadership in driving the kinds of programs that we have. So leadership is one. We operate up and down the management chain, I'll say. So communication skills, ability to communicate with executive level type individuals to individuals in R&D, doing software development, to finance, to fixed asset type people, to sale, So it's really, we operate throughout all of the functions, and communication is a very important skill to have. Flexibility. We're a worldwide organization, so the projects that we run, are sometimes they're in Japan, China, India, Europe. So our team is worldwide, and we therefore we have to pay attention to time zones and sometimes meet at night or early in the morning. Sure. So flexibility is certainly part of it.
Excellent. So Robert, let me thank you for being one of our panelists and for that introduction. I'll ask you to hold on for our panel discussion as well. But if anyone has questions specifically for Robert Gamble as the IT director at Agilent, feel free to drop those questions in the chat. And then Robert, I'll ask you to keep an eye on the chat for any questions that you might be able to answer in the meantime.
We'll do that.
Thanks. Okay. Thanks, Robert. So let me go ahead then and introduce our next panelist. Let me remove the spotlight off of Robert. Our next panelist is Linda Crisculo, who's the IT project manager. So Linda, if you're ready.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Welcome.
Glad to be here. And Will, you
Uh-oh. I think you just may have accidentally muted.
Oh, there I go.
Yes,
Can you
ma'am.
hear me now?
Yes,
Sorry about
perfect.
that. I don't know if you heard my comment. I said I was impressed, Will, that you pronounced my last name correctly.
I was listening to Robert.
Yes. So, so I do work closely with Robert. We're actually on the same team, but I am a project manager within the IT organization. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to Agilent. I am from Philadelphia area. I went to college at Drexel University and got a Bachelor of Science in Computer Information Systems. My first job out of college was with DuPont. And I was at the job for about 11 years holding various roles, but I've always been very technical person, always been like a programmer type person, a developer. That's what I like to do. So have a lot of programming experience in old school languages that people already talked about. Like actually mainly in COBOL, I would say is mainly, but I do know Pascal and some other ones. And to be honest, you know, DuPont at the time was a huge company, over 100,000 employees. I thought I would spend my career there. But it so happened that I got into working on SAP systems. It's an ERP system that Robert mentioned earlier, back on my DuPont days. And I was going to a lot of training classes to learn more about you know, the capability of the system, because it's a huge system. And I met somebody at the training class who worked for Agilent, or HP at the time. And that person, you know, we got to know each other because we were at the same class for a whole week together. And that person told me that there was a job opportunity and he thought I should apply because I would be a perfect fit. Well, to be honest, I wasn't even looking for a job. I didn't even have a resume updated. The last time I updated my resume was when I graduated college. So I did give him my business card, and his boss called me that Monday after the training class and said, he said, I heard all about you. I want to meet you. Please send me your resume. And like I said, I didn't even have one. So I said, give me a couple days. I got it together. I had an interview, got the job, and the rest is history. So that's how I got to Agilent. As I said, I'm a technical kind of person, love the challenge of figuring things out, designing things, you know, how to make things work. So always enjoyed programming. So I started as a programmer. And then I became, you know, more of a technical lead where I was leading the developers. We do a lot of outsourcing, as Robert mentioned. So a lot of times it's, besides leading internal folks, it's also, you know, leading our outsourced partners in the technical area, making sure that they, you know, that we're meeting the business requirements, they follow our standards for programming and all that fun stuff. Then I decided to jump out of technical area a little bit and move over to the functional side, which on the SAP system involves configuration of the systems, and it's really understanding functionally how the system works. I already had a lot of knowledge around pricing and how we price products at Agilent. So I kind of specialized in the pricing area, and I did that for a number of years. And you know, you might think, well, pricing was set up probably initially when you set up the system, but there's always new things with pricing. And especially since we got involved with a lot of mergers and acquisitions, I was part of those types of projects. We have to bring in the companies that we're bringing into our system. We have to understand how they do pricing and merge their pricing into our pricing. So there's always a lot of work to do in that area. And then finally, for probably the last, I don't know, about 6 years, I moved on to be a project manager, and I've been working as a project manager ever since. And as a project manager, you know, I manage everything on the IT side, and I work hand in hand with a business project manager, you know, on the business side. And what we try to do is we work on large projects, understand the business requirements, and then from the IT perspective, we just have to make sure that we can design and build what they want. We understand the business requires enough to design, build, and deliver the solution to them. And so that's basically on a day-to-day basis. I'm working on these large projects. What's interesting for me is that no two projects are the same. So you're never working on the same project. You know, it's always enhancing new capability to the system based on the business needs. So never a dull moment. And And one of the things I like, I know, Will, you're going to ask me what you like about Agilent.
Yep. Yep.
And people already mentioned this, but it's actually the people you work with. They're just really great people. They're smart people. They know what they're doing. It's a pleasure to work with them. It's not, you don't have, disgruntled employees here.
Okay.
It's really a nice, great place to work. I also really like the flexibility. We have flexible work hours, which makes it nice. Especially, when I first joined, I had young children, so I came in early, left early, and that was okay. Management is always willing to work with you because it's the people, that make Agilent a great place to work.
Awesome. So Linda, thank you for being one of our panelists. I'll ask you to hang on for our panel discussion, but
Sure.
for our candidates, so Linda's in IT project management, and I know we've got a lot of folks that are interested in project management. So if you want to drop those questions related to project management in the chat, Linda, I'll ask you to keep an eye on the chat in case there's some questions you can answer. But I have one more panelist I'd like to introduce. Then we'll have our panel discussion, and then you all can also have some one-on-one conversations through the direct messages and Zoom with your assigned recruiters as we have our panel discussion. So let me go ahead and introduce Pat Patnaud, who's a CPA and also IT project manager as well at Agilent. So Pat, if you're ready.
I am ready. So I'm probably one of the, well, I think I'm the only person here who has less than 10 years experience at Agilent, and I am not a computer science major. So I actually started my career in finance. I'm from Northern New Jersey. So I graduated from Rutgers University with a double major in economics and accounting. So my first 4 years out of college, I worked in public accounting for one of the big 8 firms. And now there's only 4. From there, then I did work in corporate accounting. And I actually relocated to Delaware. I worked in corporate accounting for about 10 years. And one of the companies that I worked for had implemented SAP. And on that project, I was actually the finance business lead. So I was really responsible for defining what we needed from the finance aspect. And it was up to the IT team to implement it. After that project, I went back to finance. And then 2 years later, when they decided to implement a different version of SAP, then they asked me to work on the project from the IT perspective. So they actually then sent me to the SAP training classes to learn how to do the configuration. I did that, and then eventually I jumped around a lot. I think I've had 7 jobs instead of just 1 job as others here. And I worked in consulting in total for 11 years. I did 8 years at Accenture and then 4 years at HCL. And my time at HCL really introduced me to Agilent because I started at Agilent as a consultant, initially on a 6-month project. And I was there almost 4 years. Working again, doing SAP finance implementation. So even though I had moved to IT, my main focus was finance solutions. So I was at Agilent for nearly 4 years. And then they replaced me with a resource in India. And I actually left for 2 years. And then they did, Agilent did a big project to implement all modules in SAP. And then they reached out to me to see if I would be interested in joining as a permanent employee. And I absolutely jumped at the chance. So when I started, I was a finance track lead working on the SAP project. And then probably 4 years ago, I moved into project management. And one of the things that I really like is the different opportunities that I've had. So I no longer just focus on finance solutions. I've worked on other areas, including subscription billing for SID and, licensing for SID and subscription billing. Very much, I like the managers are very interested in seeing you grow. I do a lot of presentations for senior executives, which I was not comfortable with at first, and always supported by managers, to like look at the deck first, give me some tips. And then after the presentations, just, what went well and what could I improve upon. They are very open to trying different roles, and kind of even discussions with pros and cons of maybe moving to a different position.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, and what I really like, I agree, right? The people are great, but I will say, Mike McMullen, who's a CEO of a company with 16,000 employees, really gets the message that family and employees come first. And we saw that with COVID, right? I mean, every 2 weeks there was a video message that, take care of your family first. And if you have kids running around and you need to homeschool, that takes priority. But the other thing is, we have the greatest Christmas party. And in addition to like the on-site Christmas party, the IT team also has, one of the directors hosts a party at his house that is just for the IT department. And can you imagine walking in and there's Mike McMullen, the CEO, just greeting you, saying, hello, how are you? Have a nice, holiday.
Nice.
We're all there taking selfies with Mike McMullen. But that is just the kind of guy he is. And he makes it personal. And like I said, I've been at 7 different companies. You just don't get that anyplace else.
I think that speaks volumes of the type of culture at Agilent. And speaking of culture, I'd like to get into our panel discussion to kind of ask you all some questions about the company culture. And so, Pat, let me thank you for being one of our panelists and for that introduction. But with the time remaining, we've got about 15 minutes left. I want to give our candidates the opportunity to be able to ask some questions, not only to our panelists, but also one-on-one with some of the recruiters that are on the call. So with that, to our panelists, if you'd like to go ahead and turn on your video feed, I'll go ahead and pin everyone and then drop my slides. But to our candidates, this is a unique opportunity for you now to have the chance to talk one-on-one with some of the Agilent recruiters. So I sent you an email prior to the event, a couple of minutes before the event, where you'll have an assigned recruiter based on your last name and based on the fact that whether you're a student or you are a professional or graduate. So if you look at the slide here, if you're a student and your last name starts with A through G, then you would send direct messages to Leanne as your recruiter. If you're a student and your last name starts between H and Q, you would speak with Dan Yazembek. And then if you're a student and your last name starts with R through Z, then you'll speak with Matt Dionysotis. So those are the recruiters for our students. If you have questions about Agilent opportunities, direct them to those specific recruiters. And then if you're professionals, we have 4 recruiters from Agilent on the call as well that you can send messages to while we have our panel discussion. The first one will be Rolanda Horde, if your last name starts between A and F, or Derek Williams, if your last name starts between G and L, or Nick Davis, if your last name starts between M and S, or Lee Korolitz, if your last name starts between T and Z. So while we're having our panel discussion with these last 15 or so minutes, please take advantage of asking any questions to the recruiters, whether it's about work locations or how your skills align or what have you. Feel free to ask those questions directly to the recruiters. I'm going to take the slide down. So if you need to reference this assignment, please look at your email from a message from me with that assignment, and then you'll know who you can talk to here in the direct messages within Zoom. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and I'm going to ask our panelists again to turn on their video feed, and then I'm going to pin everyone. Let's see, add to the spotlight. We've got Pat, we've got Doug, we've got Linda, we've got Robert, and let's see, am I missing anyone? Samir had to drop, so I think that's going to be it. It's going to be us. All right. Okay, so what I like to do during our panel discussion.
I think Darlene is in there too.
Oh, is Darlene still here? I thought Darlene had to drop.
Um, I I am I am still here, but you're in good hands without me.
Okay.
Great hands.
Okay. Okay.
But
Perfect.
glad to help if I can.
Okay. All right. So, folks, if you still have any questions for Darlene, I would say I encourage you to drop those in the chat. Again, you have recruiters that can answer your questions as well in the chat. But in the meantime, let us go ahead and have a conversation around culture at Agilent. And some of these questions. I like to start the panel discussion off with sort of a current events question. And so this question, I'm going to default to Doug, right? But anyone else that wants to add to this based on your experience, feel free to add. And that is around what was it like once COVID-19 hit, and how did that impact the way that your teams work together there at Agilent? Did everyone transition to kind of working from home? What was the impact?
So that was a crazy time that really hasn't stopped. The first thing that happened, I think, of note is something that Pat mentioned, where very quickly the CEO, all of the upper management of this company started just by saying, everybody stop and stay healthy.
Right.
That was most important. Take care of you, your family. And we even had a week where we've done this a couple times. It's just everybody stop. So that's the first thing, was the company said, take care of you. The second thing is that we are worldwide already. So it wasn't a huge thing, I didn't think, to say, well, we're going to be talking on the phone or on Zoom, WebEx, Skype, whatever it is. I mean, we've been doing a lot of that, but it was a different thing for a lot of us who I'd never actually worked regularly at home. I always went into an office, but that was very quick. We were working from home, and because everybody was in the same boat, I think it went a long way in everybody having the patience while we all figured out how to do this, such that now I don't think that we have lost a whole lot with that by still working remote primarily. We can go back into the offices right now. We're not required to, and it depends on local laws and so on. Agilent is being conservative in the approach to saying, let's come back into offices. But so we're very much people still working from home, even if some are in the offices. And we really very quickly, I think, learned how to work together just with the technology. I don't know how else to put that right now without blabbering on too long. I don't know if Linda, Pat, or Robert, or Darlene has another insight to that.
Doug, I'd just build what everything you said was so true. I mean, we turned on a dime, right, in terms of working from home. And I mean, I couldn't believe that Silicon Valley could keep us all on Zoom and WebEx at the same time, even with how quickly everything changed. But, something else that we did do in Agilent, which was pretty unique at the time, is we told everybody that nobody would lose their job because of COVID, and there wouldn't be any salary cuts. And I think that really that was what was behind also letting people focus on family, focus on everything that was changing in their lives. And what has been so remarkable is that we were worried in 2020, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that was not good with COVID and stuff, but we've actually been even more successful the last several quarters. In fact, some of our most highest, accolades from customers have been because of how well the team has supported folks, in their labs, helping them get up and running, troubleshooting and just being there for our customers. And so I think that the whole thing is connected. But if you're worried about your personal life and your family, I mean, that, you're not going to be able to do all those other things. And I think that was a real example of the culture was, no matter what the cost or the economy was going to do, we reassured folks. And that was a big decision.
I think that's awesome. So a quick follow-up question to that, and I'm gonna leave this open for anyone to volunteer to answer, and that is, were there any remote opportunities for folks to work remote for their job prior to COVID, and then are there more, or less opportunities to work remote post-COVID, like currently?
I think I can start where there were some opportunities that were just really remote prior to the pandemic. Now I I know that it doesn't bother me if somebody says, "Hey, I can only be remote." I just hired someone that was all remote. I think that's we definitely are open to that. There are some jobs that it doesn't work. There's some that it can. And we're way more open to it than we ever have before. That's the reality of the world now.
Yeah, Doug, this is Bob here. I would add, there is an element in the company to collaborate. The options exist to work remote, but I think part of the company's success is the ability to collaborate closely together. So we've even had conversations like, how do you adjust to the post-COVID work day? And there's options you may have heard. Some companies going to a 3-day in the office, 2-day or 4-day one, or whatever. And I think where we're landing is, at least in our organization, I should speak for, and perhaps Agilent, is that we do value collaboration in a very big way. And it goes a long way in the outcomes that we achieve. It goes a long way in the relationships with the people that work together. And our offices are set up that way too. So collaboration is a big component in Agilent's DNA, lack of a better term.
That makes perfect sense. So let me ask a question, and I'll start to integrate based on the time that we have left. I'm going to start to integrate some of the live Q&A I'm seeing from the chat. And one question was from Lisa asked, for the IT PM folks that are on the call, so I guess this would be for Pat or Linda, what are some of the typical challenges you have to face on the teams that you work with in the role as a PM?
I can take that. I think really one of the key things when you start as any new project is to make sure you have a clearly defined scope and detailed requirements. And that really has to come from the business. They have to understand what they're asking for and be able to provide detailed documentation so that you're not going to have a gap in the solution that you provide, right? I think sometimes also when we're in our workshops to understand what the need is and the requirements are, you uncover some of the impacts that you may have on downstream systems. So you really have to make sure that you include all folks from various tracks. So when you're doing an IT solution, right, you may need somebody from R&D, then you need people from the reporting side, people from incentive comp. And so it's really critical to make sure that during the beginning phases of the project, your requirements are well documented, complete, and ensure that they've encompassed all the different areas. And then from that, you have to make sure you have the appropriate resources.
Awesome. Thanks, Pat. So for the sake of being inclusive, I also want to throw a question to Linda. And Linda, I remember you mentioned that your path to Agilent and how you landed your career at Agilent. So I wanted to ask you a question related to what's different about working for Agilent as compared to some companies you may have worked for in the past.
Well, I was lucky. I mentioned I worked at DuPont. At the time, DuPont was also a wonderful company to work for. I also felt like there was a lot of job opportunity there, just like there is at Agilent. But now, having been at Agilent, I am going to make the same remark I heard a few other people make, and that is we have a wonderful CEO, and our CEO really communicates well with us. It makes us feel like we know what's going on in the company. And if we see him, we don't, we're very informal. We address everybody. It's like an open door policy, right? We address everybody the same way. So if I saw him, I would say, hey, Mike, how you doing? I don't have to, I'm not formal and shaking his hand and calling him Mr. McMullen or anything like that. Everybody's transparent. Everybody's down to earth. It just really is a wonderful place to work.
Awesome. So for the sake of time, I want to do two more things before I let you guys go. And that is, one, I want to introduce Leanne Chan, who's one of the recruiters at Agilent, to talk about next steps. And then I'll hand it over to Darlene to kind of close us out with final words, since you're still with us. Does that sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay,
Thanks,
perfect.
Will.
So let me pull up my my slide deck real fast, and then I'll pass it over to Leanne. So Leanne, if you're ready.
I sure am. All right, thank you. So I know we're towards the end of this event, but this is just the beginning of a long relationship with all of you. So in terms of the next steps, what will happen is I will be sending you an email by the end of this week, so by Friday, with our latest opportunities. And if you are interested in some of our opportunities, I do encourage you to apply directly, but then also shoot us an email at agilent@hbcuconnect.com and let us know that you've applied and which requisition ID or which opening ID it is. And we do have your resumes, I believe, already for most of you, but if not, you can submit your resume to us as well via that email. And once you have let us know, then we will aim to get back to you within a week on the next steps of the process. So yeah, I think that's all I wanted to share. But thank you again to all of our panelists, our keynote, and to all of you for joining today.
Thank you, Leanne. And so let me pass over, like, what I like to do, if available, is give it back to our keynote just for any words of encouragement for the candidates, or any message that you'd like to share for the candidates as we close out. So Darlene.
Yeah. Thank you, Will. And I want to thank HBCU Connect for pulling this together. This was a great session. And from the questions that have been asked, it's really clear the caliber of folks on in this session and what you're looking for. And, we covered a lot of, we were kind of all over the place. But I think that the overall impact from the comments that I'm reading is that many of you will be maybe thinking about a career at Agilent. One thing about a large company is, even if a specific skill wasn't mentioned or something that you're interested in, there's a real good chance that there is an opportunity. So if you think Agilent's a place that you'd like to be, we would really look forward to your following up with those steps that Leanne outlined just a moment ago. And it's so great that all of you took the time to spend this hour and a half with us. And of course, I thank the Agilent team as well. So keep up the great work, HBCU Connect.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And let me first of all thank the Agilent team for taking the time out. I know this is kind of after work hours for a lot of you. So we really appreciate you sharing your background, a little bit more about who you are and what you do and the opportunities at Agilent. And to our candidates, let me also thank you for taking the time out to learn more about Agilent and the potential opportunities that could lead you to a new career, or even a potential internship or something like that in the future. Really want to thank you, because without you all joining us, we cannot make these events possible. So don't take that for granted. I really want to say thank you to our candidates and to the Agilent team. And also, a lot of you all follow up with me and my team directly about those next steps, and hearing from someone from Agilent, or what some of the companies that we work with. So one thing I can say about Agilent is they are committed to following up with you as candidates. We've set up that special email address, which is agilent@hbcuconnect.com, which will go to my team and also a recruiter or more than one at Agilent as well. And then we want to make sure we have your latest resume. So if you want to send over a new resume, go to hbcuconnect.com/Agilent. So with that, I want to thank everyone. And at our last event, there were some conversations that were still happening in the direct message through Zoom, so I won't close it out, but I would like to thank our panelists. So I know a lot of you probably have to run. So if you need to drop off, that's fine. And then I'll wait for the cue from the Agilent recruiters for us to close the event. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So Leanne, Rolanda,
Mhm.
I can hold on if there's still some questions being answered directly.
Great. Will, I'll check with the other recruiters just to make sure. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Robert. So if there are any last questions, Robert said he's still here.
Also stay on to it.
Yep, awesome event. Great job to our panelists and great job for some great questions from our candidates. Appreciate it.
Okay. So I know we have 2 recruiters that are done. And then just waiting to see for the rest of them, how
Okay.
they're looking like.
Sure. So for the recruiters that are finished with your conversations, feel free to log off. Thanks, Erica. I think I made a mistake today. The weather's starting to change and it's getting a little colder, so I turned my heat on and it kicked in on me during the event. I'm over here sweating.
Where do you live, Will?
Columbus, Ohio.
Ah, oh, so
I
it should be getting cooler now in Ohio, right?
Yeah, so it got cool. I turned on my heat for the first time. And it's like set, I don't know what the temperature, I think 75. And it kicked on in my office. I have a couple of computers in here, so it gets kind of warm in here.
You just created a sauna for yourself.
Essentially, yeah.
All
Was
right.
that Bob or Robert?
This is Bob. I go by Bob. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Bob.
Yep.
Where are you located, Bob?
I'm in Delaware,
Okay,
just outside of Wilmington, and near the Kennett Square, Pennsylvania area, if you're familiar.
Yes. One of my best friends from college took me home with him one time to see Delaware, and we visited Delaware State.
Mm-hmm.
And had great experience.
Yeah, it's a cool state. I'm surprised I've been living here so long, but it's a nice place to live.
Cool.
When I was up in New Jersey, we lived in a 1-bedroom, 690 square foot little place, and with a 1-year-old. And we moved to Delaware, and we were able to find a house, a 4-bedroom house for the same cost.
Yep.
So definitely
awesome.
Different way of living in Delaware compared to like a metropolitan area.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about where I am in Columbus. It's like real estate is going up a little bit here, but it's still affordable.
How did you wind up in Columbus?
I got lucky. I was born and raised here, but then I went to university at Hampton University in Virginia, and I got picked up by Bell Labs, who was based in New Jersey at the time. To be a software engineer, and they gave me like the scholarship, and then I had to do internships in the summer. And there was a plant where they did some software engineering for phone companies worldwide and different things. And they had a big team in Columbus, Ohio. So I got to do my internships here, and then after I graduated, they picked me up and I came back home to work. So I feel like I got lucky because I always like living here in Columbus. So yeah, I came back here to work and been here.
That's really your home. That's where you.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
The default here is to go to Ohio State, but I had a brother that went there and he had a rough time. It was a huge school.
Yeah. What is there, like 120,000 students in that?
Yeah, so I think years ago it was the largest, I think, total student body, but now it's like second or third, I think.
So like Michigan, Ohio State, and what would be the other
In
big?
Texas, there's a school.
Texas, yeah.
Some school in Texas.
Hey, Will, I think we're all done from the recruiting side, so thank you.
All clear. Thank
Yep,
you
we're
all.
clear.
All right, so I will share the recording, with the candidates as well as the Agilent team. But let me thank you all again. And
Thank
awesome job
you.
of pulling together the panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all your hard work as well. You're great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so we'll be in touch.
Thanks,
Yes.
everyone.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Have a good one. Bye.